Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about subject-verb agreement, and what you really need to know is that number is all that matters. Well, what do we mean by that? What you need to know is that when you have singular subjects, those go with singular verbs, and plural subjects go with plural verbs. So a super basic example, the dog barks. In this particular situation, of course, our subject is the dog, which is singular, barks, singular. The second one, the dogs bark, that's plural, so of course the verb bark would have to be plural as well. What you really need to know is that confusing language on the SAT is what confuses you, and it often you'll select an incorrect answer choice as a result. And so what we're going to do is we're going to learn to ignore all that confusing language, all the information in the middle, so that we can really focus on the subject and the verb of a sentence. Well, how do we do that? So an example here, a narrative detailing the accomplishments of the Black Panthers have been recently published by a controversial digital distribution company. Wow, a lot of words here. However, notice we can get rid of the words in the middle. So here we have a narrative and then have been recently published, except that a narrative is going to be singular. So it should be correctly a narrative has been published, our singular verb going with our singular subject. Notice again, getting rid of the middle words. Notice in these middle words, I'd like to point out the Black Panthers. So what the SAT really likes to do is to give that plural term, the Black Panthers, right next to this verb have. And by itself, you would say, it would be correct to say the Black Panthers have. However, in this situation, it's not the Black Panthers who have, it's the narrative that has. So we have to watch for that. But don't worry, we're going to take a look at several more examples. Here we have, the minimal risk incurred while enforcing the restrictions placed on financial institutions have been exaggerated in a number of newspaper opinion pieces. Okay, well, let's cut this language, shall we? Notice if we cut the language, what it gets reduced down into is the risk, which is our verb, have been, again, the risk, which is our subject, have been, which is our verb, and of course the risk is singular, so we need a singular verb being has been exaggerated. Once again, notice in this sentence, we have this plural form of institutions. And of course, in everyday, we would say institutions have been exaggerated. However, in this context, it's not the institutions that have been exaggerated. It is the risk, the singular risk, which has been exaggerated. Taking a look at another example. The annals documenting the life of Jim Thorpe contains a striking number of similarities to the life story of Thurgood Marshall. Well, how do we cut this language? Notice here we have the annals contains, except the annals is going to be plural, so we need a plural verb, contain. Yet again, in the sentence, we have Jim Thorpe, and of course, in other contexts, we would say Jim Thorpe contains because Jim Thorpe is singular, contains our singular verb. However, in this context, Jim Thorpe is not doing the containing, the annals contain. They are doing the containing. Next example. The idea that generations past have completely discarded the bygone remnants of racist tendency are laughable. Wow, okay, well, let's cut some language here and notice our verb are laughable. That's a plural verb, but our subject, the idea, that is singular. So it's incorrect to say the idea are laughable. Instead, you would say the idea, blah, 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 is laughable. Again, separating the subject from the verb and getting rid of all that middle language. Yet another example. Sodium and potassium, notice compound subject. Sodium and potassium, though similar in chemical quality, has a completely different effect on the human body. Well, cutting this language here, what do we have? Again, we have our compound subject, sodium and potassium, has, which is a singular verb, which is incorrect. Sodium and potassium have our plural verb here, completely different effects on the body. Yet again, notice in the original sentence, quality, which is singular, you would usually say quality has. However, in this particular case, it's not the quality that has, it is sodium and potassium that have our plural verb. Well, why don't we take a look? We've seen some basic examples. Why don't we take a look at some more in-format SAT examples? So here we have the House of Representatives, composed of nearly 500 men and women from all 50 states, now have a website of its own. Well, here our subject is the House. Our verb is have. If we cut all the middle language in between the comma, we have just the House and have, which is incorrect. The House is singular, have is a plural verb, so therefore D is our answer because the verb should be has. Taking a look at another example. The statement that no one buys newspapers anymore are false. Okay, well, we have our subject, the statement. We have our verb, are. Well, statement is singular and the verb are is plural. Notice they're trying to fool me into thinking that you would say newspapers are false, but that doesn't make any sense. It would have to be a statement that is singular verb false. So our correct answer is D. Taking a look at another example. Jorge Luis Borges, the author and poet that's known for numerous works of fiction, were originally from Argentina. Well, Borges is our subject. What's our verb? Were. Well, you wouldn't say that a person were originally from Argentina. You would say that a person was originally from Argentina. So D is our error. So D is our correct answer. So those are some basic examples, and you really will learn as the more you practice that you really can learn to ignore everything except the subject and the verb of a sentence. And make sure you know your rules about compound subjects, which will be addressed in another lesson. And as always, practice, 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 practice. Okay, well, thanks very much for the time, and we will see you next time.